I'm so excited today to have David Sauers on the podcast. David is the co-founder and CEO of Royal Restrooms, the gold standard in luxury portable restroom rentals for events, weddings, and commercial applications. Founded in 2004, Royal Restrooms has grown into a nationally recognized brand with over 50 office locations across the country. Beyond his success in the event industry, David is also a featured entrepreneur and thought leader in the business world. He appeared on season 21 of the Blocks TV series and will soon be featured on Legacy Makers with Rudy Maurer, highlighting his journey as an innovator and business builder. Passionate about brand building, leadership, and outdoor adventure, David also leads Kruger Bush Campers, an overland lifestyle brand inspired by his travels through South Africa and beyond. David, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being on the show today.
William, that's quite an introduction. I mean, you get my blood pumping and it's like, wait a second, that's me.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
Well, I would love to start with you sharing a little bit of your story with our listeners, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader. How did all this get started?
I think my journey really started out when I was younger. It wasn't anything that I looked for or I strived to. I felt kind of just a calling to always just make a change, not necessarily break the rules, but I just wanted to do something a little better, see if I could maybe make it a little more interesting or maybe make it just a little more fun for myself. Even growing up from a young age, just tweaking things. And that, I believe, is really what inspired me to become an entrepreneur, to break out on my own. I just wanted to do something a little bit different.
So tell us a little bit about Royal Restrooms. Some of our listeners may not be familiar with your company, but you're now 21 years in.
Yes, absolutely. So Royal Restrooms started, like you said, we started in 2004. It kind of became a brainchild in 2003 out of like what most businesses start out in, an experience, and you want to fill a need. You want to fill some kind of void that you think is out there. And that's exactly what happened with me. Our origin stories started with a horrible experience going to a porta-john. I had both of my daughters with me. We were at a Shakespeare in the Park festival and she was potty training. We walk over, we're enjoying our time. We're having an absolute blast. Get over there and it's like, wait a second, it's dark. How do I fit in this porta potty? And next thing I know, I look down and Stella has got her hands on the toilet and her head almost in the hole. And
oh my goodness,
I just, you go into this, like, don't touch anything. And I start looking around. It's like, okay, you know what? There's still no lights in here. I don't have anywhere to wash my hands. I'm trying not to hit my leg on the porta potty. Like I'm just in pure bone panic mode. I hand Cece off to a guest outside that I don't know. So I'm nervous about that. Drop Stella down, take her pants, and I'm holding her over the potty. And I turn around to kick to make sure that my other daughter's all right. And about that time, I feel this warm sensation on my leg. At that point, I know that I'm getting peed on. And I go from, kind of panic to just very upset. Like we finished our business. We walk outside. There's nowhere to wash your hands. There's nowhere to, I don't have anything but toilet paper to try to dry myself off with. I left. And as I'm looking around and as I'm walking and I'm, mumbling and trying to keep my composure, it's like we've got all these lights in the trees. It's beautiful. Everybody's having a wonderful time. There's tents, there's chandeliers, there's people dressed. It's like, why in the world is everything's so nice, and yet we just have a freaking porta potty. Like we're going to the bathroom like we're camping. Like what? This, and nobody seems to have a problem with it. It was just the accepted norm. And it's like, why? Why is this the accepted norm? And I think it has to do with just because porta potties in general, or bathroom in general, it's a private experience. It's not something that you are are excited about, and certainly it's something from a festival standpoint that is just, it's one of the necessary evils. You just have to deal with it. Why?
So how did you start and how did you grow into what you are now? So many entrepreneurs start a business, but it doesn't take off, or they struggle for year after year after year just to sustain.
Right. Well, I think I have to finish answering your first question from before, but I have to say, watching your podcast, I love your nod and you right when you get into it. It's like this perfect feel good emotion. Like, man, I am soaking all this in, and it's listening to your podcast. Like I said, I've been very excited to come on. That was it's enjoying to see that enthusiasm. But Royal Restrooms is a full service restroom just on a trailer. It's a fully functioning restroom, just like what would be at your house or in a hotel, a restaurant. It is, you walk into the restroom, it has a vanity, you've got plenty of space to move around, you have a real flushing toilet, it's climate controlled, it's lighted, you have real toilet paper, you have hand soap, you have paper towels. You don't know that you are at an outdoor event. And that is the premise of Royal Restrooms, creating that experience anywhere you want to go. But to answer your next question, starting out, how did we go about it? How did we do it? We got really excited just about creating this idea. My business partner, Robert Glisser, and he's just such a jovial fella, and was so excited about doing this in Savannah, because Savannah is a large, event community. We do a lot of things outside. It's just so beautiful here. That we looked at it as, you know what, we're gonna take it slow. We're gonna launch this out there, see what people think, and if it doesn't work, we'll write it off. If not, we'll have a good time going to these events and taking care of this. Or there's a lot of community events. Robert and I are both professional. We're going to partner with nonprofits and we're going to elevate their event. We're going to make it part of the community. So we had a lot of little backups that we thought, and we had a lot of ideas floating around, and it just, as many people told us that we were absolutely crazy that we were doing this. The minute they sat down on the toilet, the minute they used one of our restrooms, that was it. They weren't going back. We're sold. This is brilliant. I can't believe the same person 5 minutes ago that told me we were crazy. This is brilliant. I can't believe I didn't think of this.
I love that, man. Entrepreneurs see what is not, and they see what could be. And it sounds like that's what happened. You had a terrible experience, and then you said, hey, I could do something about this. I'm not just going to complain about what is. I'm going to move on to the solution side and see if we can create what could be. So tell us about Royal Restrooms today as a business. Where are you today, and what are your goals for the next few years?
Our goals are to remain in business and continue to,
good goal.
Hey, even though we're on top, so many businesses just get lackadaisical, or they get comfortable. Yeah. They forget why they started a business. Royal Restrooms, yes, we've been the industry leader. We've been the gold standard. And a lot of, the entire industry kind of mimics what we do. They look to see what we do, and transform, their side. We're the leaders in the industry from a rental standpoint. And that doesn't come without its burdens and troubles, and certainly maintaining that image. Right now, we're in the innovation mode. We want to kind of recreate what we're doing. Our restroom trailers have continued to get exponentially more luxurious inside. I mean, there's some that have fireplaces in them. You know, I mean,
Really?
yes, seriously, they have become really outstandingly just beautiful. Like a lot of people, they walk in now and it's like, this is better than my own home. This is better than this. And they are. You would never believe, the quality inside on how these things look. They're just amazing. But from the outside, they still look like a big white cargo box. It's still a big boxy trailer. And from the event standpoint and the weddings, the VIPs, that is something that we've constantly heard over and over through the years. We love the restrooms. We still have to, we got over the fact that, okay, that they don't smell. We were delegating them over there to the far corner because we think they smell because they're associating them with a porta potty. They don't. So we're like, you need to bring them closer. It's part of your event. Well, but they're not necessarily picturesque. They don't, they were fine 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It was like, okay, I can do this. But now people want something that is more photogenic. And so we're changing that. We built, a couple years ago, we've been test marketing what we call our vintage restroom series. The outside is a mirrored stainless steel, structure that's rounded on the top. It kind of, resembles an Airstream. We can't really say that, but that's kind of that model, but it reflects the surrounding area. So if it's in a backyard or it's got flowers around it, it's like it picks up the flowers and you're looking at flowers. But not only that, when you're walking back, you don't recognize that as the restroom or even a trailer. You think that this is some part of the event, like some kind of attraction point. It doesn't at all look like a restroom now. And so when you're taking pictures, nobody even sees that in the corner. And it's really brought a lot of things out.
I love that. You're spot on. Nobody thinks, oh, let's put this toward the middle of the event. Let's bring this into the whole scheme. When you're talking about a porta potty, you keep that as far away as humanly possible. What you have created, though, is an entirely different experience. I often say that leaders create experiences. We create the experiences for our team, for our clients, for the businesses that we lead. We create the experience. What you have done is recreated an experience that most people are not thinking a whole lot about until they have to go and use it, particularly with one of their kids as potty training. What a great motivator. I love that.
Everybody can take a memory back and think about this, whatever event they've been to, whatever thing, they've had a bad experience. I've never met somebody that has not had a bad experience with a porta potty. This changes that. I'm not saying that you can't have a bad experience because something could obviously go wrong, but
sure,
for the most part, when people go to the event, they're excited about it. They're ready. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, I got to go to the bathroom. And it's that sinking feeling like, oh gosh, because it's a very private moment that we have between ourselves. It's something that, now can create anxiety. You're worried about it, but it can also dictate the rest of your event. It can spoil your event, or it can say, you know what, I want to go get some more food now because I'm not worried about the bathroom. I'm going to drink another couple glasses of wine, or we're going to stay. You know what? I don't have to take my kids to the McDonald's because I may not come back to the event.
Exactly.
Everybody at your event is going to go to the bathroom. So the details of, making this grand entrance and picture moment, that's great. But every single person is going to have to go to the bathroom, and you don't want that piece to be the deterrent or what they talk about.
A distraction from the main feeling and environment that you're trying to create. Yeah, that's really good. So you at Royal Restrooms now, you have started franchising.
Yes, we did.
So What does that look like?
We started franchising, or actually we started selling licenses at an early on period. Robert and I never had any grand visions for the business. It wasn't like we set out, we're going to do this and we're going to conquer the world. But when people started using our restroom, they were just like, I want to do this. My city needs this. We don't have anything like this in Florida. We don't have anything like this in California. We don't have anything like this in Atlanta. Like we want to bring your product there. Okay, well, here's what we did. No, 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 no. We want to copy exactly what you've done. We like everything you've done. We don't want to start over. We want to learn from that. And that's really how we got into franchising and moving across the country is
Wow.
people liked what they saw that we were doing. They wanted to copy that without necessarily having to go through all the trials and tribulations. And because we were first to market, we had a good solid name. A lot of times, even in RFQs, or, business entities that put out stuff, it's like, we're the Q-tip of Royal Restrooms. They say, we need a Royal restroom, not a restroom trailer or a bathroom trailer or a toilet trailer. It's like, we want a Royal restroom trailer.
Yeah.
Just because that's how they've grown to know what we are. So it's a huge compliment, and franchising is a difficult process. It's a complete other business than what owning a restroom company is. It's a whole separate model, and it's taken us a long time to separate the two. But we look for people who are community oriented, who want to leave a legacy, who want to be a real entrepreneur, not just somebody who's looking to buy a business to make some money.
That's really good. Did you have a background in business before you started franchising? Because that like you said, that's a whole different thing than running a business. Now you're expanding in a very specific way that some people have found to be dangerous because the franchisees don't always follow your vision.
No, they don't. And that's the good and the bad about franchising and about learning people and entrepreneurs. Just because you're doing something right doesn't mean that they can't do something a little better. So you learn from each other. But, a lot of people tend to get off course because they feel like they know their market a little bit better, and they forget the fundamentals that were taught to them, which that is not a bad thing in my book. Just because we disagree about one thing, we still have the common goal at the end. We want to do right by the customer. We want to do right by the community. We want to leave a namesake. We want to provide a good service. But yeah, franchising is a big struggle. And especially for me, I had a political science degree and an international relations degree. Absolutely took 0 business classes. And then I end up becoming a commercial banker at a local bank. And I see what a lot of local businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs do. And, even though they had struggles, they had daily struggles, they had, hurdles that they overcame, there was always a sense of pride because of what they were doing. So they always had that to fall back on. And it was just inspirational seeing, and being a part of their journey, that when it came time for my journey, I had all of these people that I could reflect back on and I could think on. And that support system, even if it was, just something small. One of my old bosses just the other day, Mike Owens, called me up. I had written him just a short letter that just said, thank you. 25 years ago when I was at the bank, I didn't understand everything that you were doing. I didn't understand the hardships or, the vision that you had and constantly trying to impress it upon others, how lonely that was sometimes, and how difficult it was to make something that should be a simple solution or a simple vision that other people just, they don't they want to stay in their lane. They're comfortable. And so I wrote him a letter, and I hadn't talked to him probably in 10, 15 years. I just said, I still remember that. And I look back on that from watching you, and I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now. And yeah, it was really nice the other day for him to call me, and he was just like, you have no idea how much that letter meant to me. And it was, to me, it was just like, it was a short letter that just said, hey, thank you. I remember that. He was just like that. That brought back great memories. I'm glad that I was able to pass something along. I was like, absolutely.
I often teach that real gratitude is never silent and it's never invisible. And I love that you took the opportunity to communicate that with a letter. That's powerful. And he won't forget that. And I would encourage the leaders who are listening, if there's somebody, as you look back on your journey, who has made that type of an investment and impact in you, who has helped you to become the leader that you are, take the time to do what David did. Write a note. Just say, hey, look, you made a big difference in my journey. I might not be where I am without you and what you did, what you taught me. So thank you.
Absolutely.
What a difference.
A lot of people think they do everything on their own. They don't.
Yeah.
Everything that we have learned, we have read, we have witnessed, we have listened, we have believed. There's a higher power watching over it. Even when you're talking within yourself, somebody else is giving you those thoughts, so and that gratitude, we have a huge commitment to community. We make all of our franchises do a minimum $25,000 of in-kind donations. The impact that you're giving back, but just the feel, what? I'm doing something. I'm making a difference.
Yeah.
I am part of this. But also the learning. It's like, wow, I had no idea that this was, there's just so many things out there that so many people, there are just so many needs that we don't even recognize because we're so blessed.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. So let's talk about you for a minute. You have to lead your companies at a higher level today than you did 5 years ago. And that same thing is going to be true 5 years from now. How do you stay on top of your game, David? How do you level up with the new leadership skills that your team and your businesses and your clients are going to need you to have in the years to come?
Oh, that is a very difficult question. And being a leader, I don't feel like I've ever thought of myself as a true leader. I've just done it. It's almost like I don't want to give myself that the power of being a leader, even though I know that I am, and it's necessary for me to communicate all of those things. One of the things that I'm trying to do a little bit better is that's why I'm on podcasts. That's why I'm doing these podcasts. Yeah. People don't read newsletters. They don't read the emails. They're too busy in their lives to listen to something from somebody else. Especially telling them how to do something a little bit better in a business that they already know. I think podcasting is a great way to talk about that because it gets your emotions out there. It gets the real thought in you, not so much where we're just this information strategy. We want the memories and the creativeness to come out and the true thought, because I think that's how you really connect with other people. And that's how I'm able to, I think, better lead is by having that one-on-one connection, by making them feel important. And I'm not just so dictating that this is what's going to happen, making them feel a part of what's going on and that there's a choice, because everybody's voice, it does matter. The big problem with that is when you do hear, but nothing ever seems to move forward. So you do have to pick a lane, and you have to have some kind of goal and a strategy for when you do reach out and speak to these people and get their opinions and their voices, because A lot of them just don't understand the changes that are going on. And it's important to educate as well as continuously communicate to them what's going on.
That's really good. It's so easy for us to lose sight of the importance of continual growth. And I know just from our conversations that you are always looking to grow. You are always looking to learn how to do what you're doing better, how to become better in the leadership role that you have. As you have been on that growth journey, is there a book that has made a big difference in your journey that you'd recommend to the leaders who are listening? Hey, this really made a difference for me, and it might for you as well.
Well, I tell you, right now I'm in the middle of one book called, I think it's Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. I often read a lot of books at once with my ADHD, and I tend to get some of them mixed up. But and sometimes I don't ever actually finish them because I've jumped around so many times. But this Storyworthy it's really interesting. It's about the moth, where I think there's the Moth podcast, but there's the Moth, I think it's in New York, where I guess it's probably mostly authors or somebody, but they get up on stage and it's not a scripted story, but they tell a story. And it's filled with emotion, and it's filled with purpose and drive, but it's all off the cuff. And I have found that is really helped open me up from a creative standpoint, and from using my memory and how to elaborate more on my memories to create a better, I guess, story or a better presentation of what I'm trying to articulate. Because as leaders, we don't always tell everybody our complete vision. What you have in your head and what you've said out to everybody is likely two very different things. And that has happened to me all of my life. So this Storyworthy and some of these techniques and practices, and how I am able to, I guess, visualize what I want to say and then put it out there in words that are more reflective of what I'm thinking. See, there's that nod.
I've not read this.
There's that nod.
Yeah, I haven't read this, but it sounds absolutely fascinating. I've got to dive into this book. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
David, I could talk to you for another hour. There's just so much insight, so many gold nuggets today that you have shared from your journey. I know our listeners are going to want to stay connected to you and continue to learn from you and more about Royal Restrooms. What's the best way for them to do that?
Well, Royal Restrooms is royalrestrooms.com. We're on all the social platforms that you can name under Royal Restrooms, and we would love to be at your event. We would love to serve you. We want to be a part of some of your most memorable events, and if we can help, we're there. LinkedIn under David Sauers. I just started an Instagram and a Facebook under David Sauers as well, if they want to get in contact with me. But you can reach me through Royal Restrooms, Kruger Busch, or LinkedIn at David Sauers.
We'll have all those links in the show notes.
I appreciate it.
One more question, David.
Sure.
Yeah, one more question that I would love to know. You are leading at a different level than a whole lot of the people who are listening. We said earlier that, offices in 50 locations,
Yes.
50 office locations around the country. That's a different level than a whole lot of the people who are listening. I'm curious. I imagine that the challenges and obstacles that you have in your business are many on a daily basis. If I had the ability to just snap my fingers and solve one problem in your business, what would you want that one problem to be?
Exactly what we talked about earlier. Communication. I am telling you what we need to do, but I still don't do a very good job of doing that. I may talk to one office, but I don't get around to talking to the other office. And then a month goes by. I very much, which is why I'd like to do this podcast, because right now I am still old school in it, sending an email or calling somebody, sending a text, and then we get back with you. I'm reacting rather than being proactive.
Yes, I get that. And I think that's a challenge for most leaders and entrepreneurs. A friend of mine says consistency is the mother of momentum. Everybody wants momentum, but consistency is how you get there, whether it's the gym or whether it's running your business. And communication is no exception to that. David, thank you for your generosity and your kindness in sharing so much today with our listeners and with me. I'll walk away better for it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, William. I really appreciate that.